Shit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and once again, you're stuck with me in the driver's seat for today's show, as we wanted to stop just chasing paychecks and how to start closing customers for life. And we do that by interviewing some of the most interesting, successful people in their industry to see how they became successful, how they built their business. We have a great show for you because we have a great guest in Karen Brown. Karen, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on the show, Josh.
Totally my privilege. So, Karen, why don't you tell everybody what it is you do?
What it is I do? Yes. Well, first of all, I'm a badass. I've been called that many times in my life. So we actually turned that into a revolutionary movement where we're redefining the very essence of leadership. So we're not just raising the bar, we are transforming what it means to lead with boldness, authenticity, and fearlessness. So we're setting new standards of excellence, and we empower leaders to break boundaries and elevate their impact. Badasses.
Big believer in setting standards. Standards are so important, and most people just don't do the work. So what got you started doing that, though?
My relentless search for when I was an up-and-coming leader, a rising leader, my relentless search for the difference maker. What was that catalyst, that game changer that was going to fast track my growth and higher level success? I found it during my beginning pursuit of the Ironman World Championships as an amateur athlete. That had been a lifelong dream. And I discovered the power of neuroscience, which is basically the way our brains work. They work in something called behavioral patterns. And once I discovered that and the power and the volume and the processing speed of working in behavioral patterns, immediately the humongous light bulb went on over my head. And I thought, this is it. This is the difference maker that I have been relentlessly searching for this whole time. And then, so this was back in 2010-ish. And then what I realized is I wanted to pioneer the use of neuroscience into leadership development and coaching because it didn't exist at that time.
Gotcha. That's a bit of a journey. So what do you like best about it?
Oh, gosh, how long is your show? What I like best about it. Number one, that it is scientific. It is scientifically proven to work for everyone, not just, folks that are like me, and maybe it's my system that I came up with that I hope works for you. No, it's science. It is the way our minds work. So I love that we can all count on it. It's repeatable, it's sustainable, and it is the fast tracker. Secondly, I love that it brings out the uniqueness of each individual. I mean, no two people are the same, even if they've had the same experiences. They respond to those experiences differently. And so every single person is unique. They're their own puzzle. And I am absolutely fascinated by people.
Yeah. No, as I was saying, even identical twins, they have lived different lives. It's same experiences, same DNA, and just different. So where do you think all the success came from for you?
Never giving up. I am as tenacious as the day is long. So after I achieved my lifelong dream of crossing the finish line at the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii, then I jumped fully off the rails and got into ultra marathons, ultra triathlons, and stepped onto the international stage of competition in them. So these little races called Ultraman, which are a 3-day, 320-mile triathlon. Yeah, I did 2 of those, and then traveled all over the world racing in the same kinds of competitions. So what I learned about myself along the way is that, number one, we all have what it takes inside of us to do anything we want, anything we desire, anything we can dream up. We literally can. And number two, I wanted to open a pathway to realizing that potential. So, and I just never give up. I just heard a speaker this morning. He said the all in speech for the New York Giants that then ultimately led them to victory in the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
And I loved something he said today, which is, let me find it real quick. Uh, all in is staying committed to something when there's no assurance of success.
Mm.
That is me. I have been all in since day one, since my mom instilled in me that I could do whatever I want. Truly, I'm bound by nothing.
Mhm.
And so I followed her words all the way through. I mean, beginning in commercial real estate in 1988, when I was so innocent and green behind the ears. I didn't even know enough to be scared that I was
Yeah.
going into this male dominated industry. I was the total newbie, didn't know a thing. And I was just so thrilled um, because I love taking on enormous, humongous challenges, figuring them out, and then really paving the way for others.
Good stuff. So let me ask you this: how do you deal with disappointment, unmet expectations when things don't go right?
I cry or get mad? No, I'm teasing. Of course not. No. What I've learned to do is self reflect. When you heighten your self awareness, which as any leader that's going to be a badass leader has to learn to do, is really heighten your self awareness and self reflection. What's my contribution to the current situation? What am I contributing to the results I'm seeing or the lack of results I'm seeing? And then, ask those questions with real answers. And for me, dealing with disappointment is just sort of sitting with myself answering those questions. Well, what's causing my disappointment? What were my expectations going in? Were those realistic expectations? Um, and who else is involved? What other elements came into that situation to create the current results that we're seeing?
Gotcha. So, I mean, the question I usually would ask here is what is a tool you'd suggest to help our listeners? Is self reflection a tool you would say, or is it something else?
Yeah. So, first, use that self awareness to go into self reflection. Ask yourself the question first, what am I feeling and what am I thinking? Write those answers down. Then ask yourself, how are those coming across? How are other people experiencing what I'm feeling and thinking? Then you can identify the behavioral pattern that's at play there. Maybe it is a disappointment or frustration that I'm feeling, and the way it's coming across, the way others are experiencing me is anger, or maybe they think I'm angry at them. Maybe they think that I think they're terrible. I'm, putting shame on them, right? This
Mm,
is often what happens to us in leadership roles and happens at work all the time. So, yeah, follow that three-step process. Then you can identify the pattern that's at work there. Um, it's usually how we react to something, right? If we
sure.
think about triggers, right? How do we react when we're triggered to something? And then
Mm,
what is that pattern specifically? I can just speak from my own experience. Prior to me doing a lot of self awareness work and really confronting my own behavioral patterns, I would get angry and react in an angry way if I was disappointed. And so what I identified is, okay, that's nothing more than a behavioral pattern. I'm disappointed because I feel like somebody let me down because I'm so highly invested in what we're doing, what they're doing, right?
mm,
I look at it like my leadership depends on bringing out the best in this person, bringing out the best in this team member, helping them thrive, and leading them to achieve our collective goals. So if I'm not doing that and expectations, aren't being met, then I take it upon myself. I take it personally. Like
Sure.
I have failed. I have let the other person down. I've let the team down. I've let all
Mm,
of us down. Yeah. So
yeah.
then it's simply identifying the behavioral pattern that you're playing, and then what is the one that's going to serve you better to get where you want to go. For me, it was alleviate the anger and just sit in what is. Okay, what happened? What are the results we were going for? What was the expectation? And then where's the gap? And then ask questions. All right, uh, where did the gap come from? What produced the gap? Notice I'm
Mm,
not using blaming language with anybody. I'm just,
right.
I'm investigating like a scientist. What produced the gap? When did it happen? Where did it come from? What can we do to bridge the gap? How can we get there?
Yeah, no, that's all proactive ways of trying to take and resolve it rather than just sit in the misery. I get
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, so, what do you see as the opportunity in the market today?
Mm. So the opportunity in the senior leadership market, which is where we work and make the biggest difference, is the two main blind spots that I see on an ongoing basis. Doesn't matter what generation we're talking about, because there's now 5 generations all in the workforce at the same time. Uh, but it's
Hmm.
these two. Number one, low self awareness. Number
Mm,
two, behavioral flexibility. Identifying your own behavior through self awareness, but then not being able to flex it to meet others where they are, understand others' behavior, how they operate, how they try to get things done, meeting them there and walking through that with them. So maybe as the leader, you need to flex from working with a type A person to more of a people oriented person,
mm, gotcha.
right? Maybe
A
a
little
more
bit.
process oriented person. My favorite people on the planet are spreadsheet experts because I suck at spreadsheets. I am not a
Yeah,
badass at spreadsheets. Um, so
outsourcing.
yeah, it
Absolutely.
might be having to slow down because I'm more of a hey, let's run right at it 100 miles an hour and let's clobber it as quickly as we can. And we can make adjustments on the fly if we need to, but let's get going. But
Yeah,
process people are, they want to make sure that they understand why we're doing it and how we're going to do it before we actually do it. Well, that can be frustrating sometimes. So it serves me better to flex my behavior to more of that process orientation to make that person comfortable, even though I'm pushing them the whole time. I'm still pushing them to do things more quickly, right? I'm pushing
they're
them,
driving you
uh,
crazy.
yeah, outside their comfort zone.
They're totally driving you nuts, but at the same time, you're trying to appreciate them while you want to strangle them. No, I get
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's a thing. It's when you're a type A, those folks that want to take and deal with the details, they drive you nuts, but they're a necessary evil because nothing gets done without them either. It's a real
Absolutely. I
balance.
suck at details. I'm great at big picture, big visions, big missions. But yeah, I really need those detail people to carry things out because they're the ones that figure out how we're going to get there. Great.
Absolutely. So, what would you say is the most important thing you've learned in the process of doing what you've done?
Most important thing is to recognize that everybody is different.
Sure.
As a type Aer, I'll say, uh, we tend to suffer from the belief and the blindness that everybody is wired just the same way we are. Everybody does the same things we do. Can't they see the same things we see? The same answers. I mean, isn't it obvious?
Hmm.
No, it's not. So realizing that everybody is truly different. Everybody has their uniqueness, their authenticity, their story that delivered them to where they are now. Really appreciating that in each person, helping them bring out their authenticity to be that badass leader, um, and then realize that level of success from doing so. Their potential really that is coming out.
See what they're capable of. Let them catch the vision for
Yes.
what they're capable of. Makes good sense.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
This little segment here, I like to let people get a chance to know you a little bit better and see what you're about in a little bit of a different light. So, kind of a lightning roundish sort of thing. What would you say you're most proud of in business that you've accomplished?
Becoming a young CEO and bouncing back from being fired from a job that I thought I was really good at. Yeah.
Hmm, that's
Yeah.
an ego for
Oof.
sure.
That one stung, my friend.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. But I learned
Similar
a
que-
lot.
Similar question, but most proud of in life.
My ability to unconditionally love humans and adapt.
Good stuff. What one piece of advice would you give our listeners?
Dive into yourself.
Okay.
Dive into yourself. Understand yourself first. Lead yourself first. Then work on leading others.
If you can get yourself right, it's much easier to get others to want to follow you because most of them don't have
Yeah.
themselves right either. When they see you have your shit together, all of a
Yeah.
sudden they want to have a little bit of what you
Yeah.
have, and they're more willing to
Yeah.
follow. I
Yeah.
would totally agree.
Yeah.
Um,
Know your shit. Right,
yeah,
Josh? Know your shit. Know your own shit first.
as it turns out, that may or may not be a thing here at the Know Your Shit podcast. What one book? If you had to nail it down to one book, would you recommend?
Oh my
I
gosh,
know.
this is hard. I'm a voracious reader. What one book? Mm, probably. I'm gonna flub the name.
That's
Something like "Stepping into Your Power" or "Knowing Your Power" by Gary Zukov.
okay.
The reason I say that book is the president of our company, $270 billion global company at the time, recommended this book to all of us at our annual conference. And then when I read the book and realized that it was espousing to self discover all of these internal things, your internal mechanisms, if you will, so that you could really choose the best behavior that you wanted to put forward with other people in the world, at work, etc. And I thought, how incredibly humble and vulnerable that president was for recommending that book to us.
Hmm.
And it was life changing, honestly.
All right. Well, that's exactly what I was looking for. Something that moved the needle. Um, Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, you're killing me. I'm a huge movie buff too. So,
Oh, there you go. Your
ooh,
consumption of media is prolific.
only those two media. Yeah, I don't watch TV. I don't watch series. I don't watch any of that stuff. Um, I can narrow it down to a genre. How about that?
All right.
Not a specific movie. Stories of transformation are my
Oh,
absolute favorite. Usually true stories, but where the character travels this arc of transformation. They find it within themselves, something that's always been there, but maybe they just didn't, they weren't sure it was there. They didn't know how to tap into it. This is not this is not my favorite, but it popped into my brain. Invincible with Mark Wahlberg.
okay. Gotcha. No,
I'm not a huge football fan, but I do love that movie.
mine would be similar. Mine would be stories of redemption, stories
Yes.
of folks that, you know, there's no coming back, and through, kindness or charity or finding some enlightenment at some point, or God's intervention, they're
Mm,
changed to be a better version of themselves.
yes.
Those get me crying like a child usually. So,
Yes,
totally
I'm
agree.
with you.
Yeah. They're like, always seem to matter most. Is
Yeah.
people's lives being changed for the better because of something or
Yeah.
some. So
Do you have
famous.
a favorite movie in that genre?
Um, the one that's coming to mind is the movie Imagine,
Oh,
and
yes.
yeah, that
Mm,
relationship with the father and the father's turnaround. I cried
yes.
for a full 2/3 of that movie. Probably my girlfriend at the time almost wore a hole in my hand right here, rubbing my. She was worried about me that I was crying so bad. She's fine. I'm sitting here. I mean, it was bad. It was. Yeah, my father's was It's a Wonderful Life. That one he couldn't watch it because it got him every time. But yeah,
Yeah.
Imagine is always I've watched a couple of times and it's rough every time. It's a great movie though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
famous person in history you'd want to meet if you could.
Abraham Lincoln.
Guy had a rough road to hoe. Absolutely.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
Similar question,
Hmm.
but a little more personal. What person from your past would you want to sit down with and have lunch with today if you could?
Person from my past. Hmm. Goodness me. Uh, mm, my dad. My
Hmm.
dad. Because some things happened, let's just say that.
Hmm.
And I wish I would have handled them differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Took me decades
Those.
to tackle that, do that work, make resolution, mend,
Yeah.
heal. Yeah. And I wish that uh, I could turn back those decades and, yeah, do that much differently when it happened so that we could have spent those decades differently.
Yeah. No. Time lost is one of those things to be that you can't think too hard about because you mourn it in the inside of your soul, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's really actually one of the truly tragic and sad things is time wasted. Um,
Yeah. Although I will say this, I am proud that first that my dad is still alive, and that I did take the bull by the horns eventually, and reached out, made amends. Um, we both apologized and owned our contribution to that situation, and built a bridge of love, really, and resolved it. Really glad
that's
about that.
just again redemption stories, always
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Um, what one piece of advice would you go back and give a younger version of you?
Don't be scared.
Hmm.
Don't be scared. Uh, Much of my life has been spent doing things, ultimately doing things that I was scared of, but initially that being scared of it, being frightened, held me back. Yeah, I didn't need to waste time being scared. It's all
Great
going to be
corollary.
okay. This is your path.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. If you had to be stuck in a foxhole taking fire with somebody, who would you pick to have in the foxhole with you?
Mm. My husband.
Good safe bet right there. That's how you
Mm.
stay out of trouble.
Well,
Cool.
and you know what? This is a little bit of a different answer because I'm a newlywed. We haven't been together all that long.
All right.
Yeah,
There
but
you go.
absolutely all day, every day, twice on Sundays. Yes,
That's what you want in a partner, somebody that's got your back.
yes.
So, what do you do to unwind, Karen?
I read. I watch movies. As you can probably also imagine, I like to work out. So even though I hung up my competitive spurs in 2018 in northern Italy, which was incredible, by the way, I still love to be really active, to do highly challenging physical activities. So that could be fitness boxing or going for a really long run, which for me might be 2 hours or more.
Mm.
Uh, when I love to lift weights multiple times a week. I still love to swim. I love to mountain bike. I have, over the last 3 years, just started something called skate skiing, which is phenomenal. It's kind of immersive, like mountain biking, and you're outside on groomed trails, but with Nordic skis. Oh my gosh, such a great workout, peaceful, and what all of that activity has in common for me is that I get into the flow, which is that biological state of feeling at one with everything, where it just feels almost effortless, like
Mm.
you're just doing it. It's almost it's rhythmic, it's somewhat meditative, and
Mm.
it's where my best relaxation and also ideas come from.
Nice.
Mm.
Finding that place where you can get out of you what you're capable of, get the mind in that place where it's maximum creativity and production. It's
Yeah.
great to find those places and the things that do that for you. Uh,
Yes.
so, as a fellow Type A here, I know we always have something on the burner, something on the back burner that we're thinking about. What's next for you, Karen? What's the next project, the next thing that you're kicking around that maybe you haven't committed to do yet, but I'm probably going to do it?
Oh gosh, how many are there is really the
Yeah, yeah.
question.
I was afraid to
Yeah, yeah. First and foremost, I spend a lot of time looking at what our clients are requesting, what their needs are. What's on the upcoming horizon. That's going to help them become that badass leader and create badass cultures, other badass leaders, badass teams, badass environment, badass stakeholders, all of it. I also pair that with current trends. Like I said earlier, I'm a voracious reader and I'm a continuous learner. I love learning. I learn every single day. So I'm constantly sort of scouring out there. What's the latest game changer? What's um, that next piece of cutting edge science that is going to be helpful that we can
Hmm.
apply with human beings, with leaders. So that's it. And then, gosh, so we'll start which to say first? We'll start a sort of group online organization,
Mhm.
probably for new leaders, because I see that as an emerging trend. There's a lot of what we call battlefield promotions. And a lot of, we work middle to large market, but a lot of rapidly growing and scaling companies. And they promote folks that were incredible individual performers into leaders. And then after the dust settles, when they're looking around in the foxhole, then they look back and go, hey, wait a minute, I don't even know how to be a leader. I haven't been a
Yeah,
leader before. I haven't led anybody other than myself so far. Right.
yeah, yeah.
So I feel like there needs to be something for a group for new badass leaders. Um,
Hmm.
Also, taking our team work and enterprise wide leadership development programs to the next level. We still see a lot of team dynamics that can be raised up, can be much elevated from where they are. um, you know, Teams are doing well, but how can they reach that next level? How can they find that next gear and
Hmm.
really be the best that they can be? It's like, in leadership in general, do you want to be your best? Do you want to pursue that every day? It's the same thing with teams, right?
Sure.
So, and we apply behavioral science to working with teams, and we've seen that be a enormous, immense game changer. So much so that we can actually transform the culture of a company by starting to work with teams throughout the organization, usually starting with the senior leadership or executive team. Um, and then enterprise wide programs are really exciting. Oh my goodness. Oh, I get Twitter pated with these because we'll set up a cohesive program for usually multiple levels of leaders in an organization and deploy it over several years of time in a very systematized way. And it's all behavioral. Some begins with training and assessment, and then coaching, and then some interactive stuff. So it's just really lovely.
Awesome. Well, last question I have for you. Where can people find you?
YourExponentialResults.com.
Okay.
That is the name of my company. And I lead the movement Badass Inc. as well. So I'm on LinkedIn, Karen Elaine Brown, or yourexponentialresults.com.
Good stuff. Well, Karen, thank you so much for your time, for coming on and sharing some of what you've learned and your journey and your wisdom with us. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you for the privilege. Really fun being on your show, Josh.
Great having you here. So I want to thank our listeners as well for spending their time with us and hanging out. Reminding you guys, as always, there's never a good excuse not to know your shit. Till next time.